Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live stream, and we have more people this time. So, if you've seen our live streams before, you've already met Jamie and Simon. So, hello, you two. Jamie, would you like to sort of introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you yet?
Hello. So I went to Oxford and I studied philosophy, politics, and economics there. Me and Simon did the whole Ox vlog thing together, which is where an Ox tweet thing, where people tweet about lives at Oxford and also vlog about their lives at Oxford. I guess that's me in a nutshell.
And I'm the other Ox vlogger, as Jamie says. I did physics at St Peter's College, and I'm currently doing a PhD in maths at Exeter University right now. And Jamie and I sort of kickstarted the whole.
Is Simon dying again for everyone else?
Great start.
Okay, and we've also got.
Oh no!
So let's ignore Simon for a bit while his internet catches up.
This is already proving to be brilliant.
Yeah. So none of my viewers who I don't know, but a lot of people probably don't know who you are, Sally. So hello and welcome.
Hello, thanks. Hi, I'm Sally, and I am at Oxford. I actually did my undergraduate at Oxford in biology starting in 2010, and starting in 2014, I started a PhD, also known as a DPhil here in Oxford, because everything in Oxford has to have a stupid name, also in biology, and I study evolution and sex, and kind of the evolution of different animal behaviours. So that's a 4-year course, so I'm going to be in Oxford for a total of 7 years. Shocking.
Wow. And of course I'm doing computer science at Cambridge. I'm the only Cambridge guy here, and I'm a 3rd year. I assume everyone knows about me since it's my channel. So, we're going to be trying to answer as many questions as we can over the next however long we do this for, hour, 2 hours. We've already got hundreds. I apologise in advance for all the questions we can't answer because we just can't keep up. Also, we have a hashtag that you can use if you want to contact us via Twitter instead, and that is #OxCamQNA with an N.
You say that with such disdain.
We need to be clear. I think we've all tweeted or retweeted something about it, so you can just find our Twitter pages if you want to know exactly what that is.
Yes.
Okay, so let's find some questions to answer, I guess. Where do we start?
I'll start, seeing as I'm the newbie. I was looking at some ones from earlier. Let's start with a nice easy one from Orange Mandarin. Give us your best or worst academic or not joke. I thought I'd set the tone high. Starting us off on a joke.
This is where we all go to Google and try to look for one.
I have nothing for that. This is...
Really? You've never been asked this question before? Okay, I will start. The philosopher René Descartes enters a bar, and the barman says, "Would you like a drink?" Descartes replies, "I think not," and disappears. That is my geeky joke. Anyone else have anything to contribute?
Maybe one is enough.
That's how it's going to be, is it?
I can't remember it completely, but there is a joke along the lines of, two scientists walk into a bar, and the barman asks them, to the first one, "What would you like?" And he says, "Some H2O." And the second person says, "Oh, I'll have some H2O too." And then the first one is like, "Haha, my evil murder plan has worked."
Or the follow-up joke to that, which is the first person says, "I'd like some H2O," and the second person says, "What kind of person are you asking for water using its chemical name? Why can't you just call it water?"
And his murder plan has been foiled.
If I try and tell a joke, am I going to sound like Optimus Prime?
No, you sound alright.
Totally.
What's Optimus Prime?
It's a Transformer, Sally!
Oh, dear.
Can I say that, having watched some of your other videos together, I am very different to all of you in the fact that I am not half as geeky as you guys, or at least certainly not in the classical geeky way.
But no, you don't sound like
Okay.
Optimus Prime currently. But I don't think.
Okay, I've been staying quiet because I just got laughed at in the comments.
Oh.
So if I break up, just shout over the top of me. The one which I know, a whole bunch of mathematicians walk into a bar. And the first guy orders a pint, and the second guy orders half a pint. The third guy orders a quarter of a pint, and then the says, "Guys, know your limits."
I like that one.
Very clever.
Oh, good, good.
That's not where I thought it was going. Isn't there a similar
Right, okay,
one?
should we? That's the first question then. Should we?
Yeah,
where should we take? Are we going to go from?
Broken the ice.
Okay, I've seen a few questions about computer science. Someone asked if I did STEP. No, I didn't. I chose a college which didn't ask for it, but usually that's only for computer science with maths, which I didn't choose. And somebody else has asked what field in computer science I'm looking to get into after graduating. It's just general software development, nothing specific. I'm not going into research. I'm not staying in education. Okay, someone else pick a question, answer it. Let's get through some reasonably quickly.
After you.
Someone asked that they're doing a 1-year master's. This is on Twitter. Social media guru. What are some must-know places you should visit in Oxford? So kind of excluding Jake, unless you've been to Oxford.
Only for the open day.
Okay, where did you go? Would you recommend it?
I don't know. I can answer this question about Cambridge, but
Okay.
you three
what
answer this
places
one.
are- Oh wait, no, I do have a place I recommend, but I just need to look up its name. It's a church that does really great healthy food, and it's
The
also
Vault.
delicious. Yes, that place.
St.
Yeah,
Mary's
definitely
Church.
go there.
It's almost like I've been at Oxford for 5 years and kind of know it back to front. So yeah, the Vault Cafe, that's really nice. Botanic Gardens, an awful lot of people don't go. Natural History Museum, besides the biologist, of course, but an awful lot of people spend all their time at Oxford and then never go to the Natural History Museum. And then when I mention it, they're like, "Oh, what? Is that next to the Pitt Rivers?" You've got to walk through the Natural History Museum to get to the Pitt Rivers. So I don't know how they missed that, but that's great. It's now my favourite place, I think. And there's a cafe there as well, which makes it even better.
Simon's frozen and robot. I think he's lost power. Simon? I guess we'll skip to the next question.
Someone asked me about my project, but I'm going to cover this in a lot more detail in future vlogs, so I'll not waste everybody's time now. Just
There are quite
vlogs.
a few people who have just got offers. Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
And someone said, Cerulean Jim said, "Is it possible to be let in if you miss your offer? He holds or she holds an Oxford offer and is so scared. Congratulations on getting an offer, but I am fairly certain that unless you meet your grades, unless that there is some extenuating circumstance that can be explained, then you do need to meet your grades, because Oxbridge is very competitive and they do offer more places than they can offer, expecting some people not to be able to make it. Am I right? This is all just hearsay, by the way. I should add that I'm not qualified.
I don't actually know.
I don't work with admissions or anything like that. So
I need to find out.
I agree with that. From everything I've heard and everyone I've spoken to in Access and Admissions, they agree with everything Sally just said. So I endorse her reply.
good. Jake, apparently my volume is too loud. Is that something that you do at your end or I do at
Yes,
my end?
I've turned you down. I saw that.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay, we're in no way censoring your speech though. We're just.
I just project so beautifully. Oh, it comes up with a little
Adjusting
thing.
volumes
But
based on what people say.
my audio has been adjusted.
How much money do you spend per month at Cambridge? And I guess we can also extend that to Oxford.
I don't actually add it up too much, but my accommodation is £1,500 a term.
Uh-huh.
And what would I spend
That's a
on
lot.
booze? Maybe like £20 a week in Sainsbury's, plus like I go to the buttery for most of my meals for dinner, which is like
Not gonna lie, I was flicking through your vlogs and you do need to learn how to cook.
Yeah, I know. But I will eventually. That's like and then I don't know, let's say 40. It's going to be like maximum £50 a week. Then how many weeks have I got? 9, 450. Two to £3,000 a term on like absolutely everything. I guess. I don't know. It's hard to work out on the spot.
Yeah, I would say about £50 a week is pretty a good estimate for me as well. And then accommodation, I think it was about 1,400 a term for Magdalen.
Yeah.
It was kind of in the upper mid rankings in terms of how expensive it was as a college for
Yeah, I
accommodation.
think Queens is quite expensive here. Mine, and I've got one of the most expensive rooms in college as well at 1,500. You can get things cheaper in Queens and a lot cheaper in other colleges. But then,
That is pricey.
and then like food in Queens tends to be kind of expensive, but we don't have to pay like any sort of termly charge, and our bar is really cheap. So I don't know. I guess maybe it averages out eventually.
Simon's back!
Yay!
Am I? Am I back?
Yes, you
Yeah!
are.
Hey!
Hey! Internet here is atrocious. I might actually be better off contributing by like carrier pigeon or something. Here.
It comes through slowly, and when it does, it's worth it.
Someone asks, they said Jake seems like all he does is work. Will I actually have fun when I get there at Oxford?
You guys work a lot.
Have you not watched Jake's videos? He goes out like every other night.
No,
Is the impression I get.
I don't. Everyone gets an exaggerated view of my life from my videos because the boring parts are just not. I don't film them, so it looks like my life is just every day. Eat burgers for dinner and go out and drink and miss lectures. But that's only like a couple of days, 1 or 2 days a week. The rest of the week I'm just doing work and it's boring. Yeah, you can have fun though, to answer the question, at Oxford or Cambridge. It is a stressful place. You do a lot of work, probably more than at most other universities. But it doesn't mean you can't have fun. I do have fun sometimes.
I don't know what normal is, because I don't know, I didn't really visit any other universities, but I would say that you do work a lot. As an undergrad at least, there is the good old saying that there is work, play and sleep and you've got to pick two. And everyone at Access always says, oh, this is such a myth, whereas everyone who's actually a student is like, well, there's quite a lot of truth to it. But it's only for 8 weeks, I should add, as an undergraduate. So most people tend to drop sleep. Someone actually asked, how much do you sleep each night for a normal thing? So I need at least 8, otherwise I get very tired. But I can get that, so it's fine. But yeah, you do have time to do lots of other things as well, and it does depend on your subject. So unlike Simon and Jake, who they are also sciences like me, but my science biology is an essay subject. And so I had to have, I wrote 1 essay a week for my tutorials. I also had labs where I did practicals, and also had lectures, but not half as many. And so that means that you can just kind of you do have a lot of free time. And so I tended to spend like Monday to Wednesday recovering from the week before, doing whatever I wanted to do, and then Thursday and Friday cramming in an essay and all the reading, because I don't follow any of these guys how to work effectively. I am the only one that hasn't made one for a reason, because I do not work very effectively.
Yeah, so with computer science, I don't get too much free time, more so this year because we get a lot of extra time that we are meant to spend on our projects. But particularly in first year, you're left with like hardly any free time at all, which it's not great. But like Sally said, 8-week terms, it's not that long. I would prefer longer terms, longer and less intense terms, but that's what we get. When
you become a graduate, you have to do the same thing for 52 weeks of the year, and then you just burn out like I did.
So is being a graduate actually as intense as an undergrad? Because the impression I got was that it wasn't as intense.
Well, it depends on your own personal lifestyle. I am very lucky in that, so I'm in the zoology department, and as a rule, the zoology department in Oxford is lovely, and you have flexible working hours, you work whenever you want, because basically I have a job, I am paid by the government to do research, and if you're somewhere like chemistry or biochemistry, your supervisor may expect you to be in the lab from 8 until 6, Monday to Friday, possibly Monday to Saturday, every single day. And if you're not in at 8 or if you leave before 6, you will get in trouble.
Whoa.
Whereas in zoology, I work whenever I like. So I had pneumonia actually before Christmas. So at the moment, I am knackered all the time, which means that I spend half my time working at home, half my time napping, and the other half occasionally in the office just to show my face. But so I work whenever I want, but when I have experiments on, I work on flies, and my flies, I can't just leave them over the weekend if they have to be seen daily. And when I'm collecting, so because I study sex, I have to collect them as virgins, and I have to sex them, which means separate them into males and females. So last term I had like a 2 or 3 week stint where I was working for 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is what I mean by I burnt out at the end of it.
Maybe that was leading to.
I was going to say this is quite a probable contribution to getting pneumonia. But I mean, I'm in the second year of my DPhil, but I'm only in the first year of my research. Because my first year was a bit like a master's, because I didn't do a master's course. There isn't a master's really in biology. And so, yeah, I'm still learning how to balance it, but it's just as full on, if not more so than an undergraduate degree, but you've got to sustain it for the entire year. So you've got to learn to balance it. But normally you can take weekends off because you do treat it like a job. And it depends on if you're working on living things or not.
Okay. Well, that's something I definitely didn't know. The impression I got was what I said earlier. I thought it was less intense. So, I'm convinced.
I think, I certainly haven't found the balance yet when it comes to graduate life.
People are concerned that Simon's dead, going on from the living beings topic that you mentioned.
He's alive, just...
He's having some issues with his internet, so everyone is aware, and he will be back shortly. We promise. Should we grab another question?
If someone's worried that I'm saying the word sex, then you can expect me to talk about sex quite a lot if I'm discussing my research.
Yes.
I saw a question from somebody. Megan Watt says, "My parents don't want me to go to Cambridge as it's too far away. They live in Scotland. What do you think I should say to persuade them to let me go?"
By going to Cambridge, you are part of a unique part of history that has existed since the dawn of civilization, almost in the UK. That's not a very completely candid answer, but yeah.
It's such a fantastic opportunity.
Cambridge has, along with Oxford, some of the shortest terms of any university. Therefore, by going to Cambridge, they'll see you more.
Ooh, that's a very good argument.
I do try.
If that doesn't work, you can talk about how prestigious they are, maybe? See if that swings them. Although I actually really like Sally's argument. I don't see who would disagree with that if they're worried about you leaving.
I assume you've already tried the "it's such a great university" kind of arguments. Because, surely your parents would be aware of that. So, yeah, some more tactical questions like Sally's might be the way forward.
You could talk about all the negative things about the other options, potentially.
Well, if they're Scottish, then actually it's much better for them financially to go to a Scottish university.
Cheaper.
That's the point. It's 9,000 quid, isn't it, now, to go to university? Shoot.
Yes.
Blimey.
Don't remind me of all this stuff.
I was the last year of 3,000.
Oh wait, you were the last year?
Oh
wait, that means we're in the same year. Because I was the last year. Wait, were you 22 this year?
I am going to be 23 this year.
What month?
July.
Oh, okay. So you on the borderline then?
Yes, I'm young in the year.
Ah, okay, cool. We're in the same year.
Yay!
Who knew?
£9,000. Isn't like a year younger.
Yeah, I mean it really sucked for you guys.
Yeah, it does, or it did. Oh no, I guess it still does because you still have to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are people asking, quite a few people asking this, so someone on Twitter, Alfred DW, applied to Cambridge and didn't get in. Is it worth accepting an offer from another university or trying again next year? Someone else I remember previously said that they got rejected from Oxford. Is it worth trying again for Oxford? I would say, I am not endorsed by Oxford or Cambridge, but I would say it depends on if your A2s are better than what was predicted, so now you have more evidence to back yourself up, then it's worth reapplying. If you were given sufficient feedback, like you do not have enough experience or something, and now you have gone and got more experience and actively changed the thing that they said was preventing you, or they might have said, I don't know, your ASs aren't good enough, but now your A2s are good enough. Other than that, if it's a generic thing, then I would say, I don't know, if you went for Oxford, you can maybe try Cambridge, but I would think about another university, probably, because it depends on how much you want to take a gap year and how much going to Oxbridge above any other university means to you, but I would say that as much as all four of us will sing the praises of Oxbridge, other universities are fantastic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Sally just said. I don't even need to add anything to that. Personally, if I didn't get an offer from Cambridge, I'd have gone somewhere else. I wouldn't have tried again.
Where would you have gone?
My insurance choice was Durham, so I'd have ended up there.
Good old Oxbridge.
Oh yeah, they have colleges too.
They do?
Yeah.
I think so. The
Yeah,
rumour
they
has
do.
it. I wouldn't have gone anywhere if I didn't get to Oxford, because all of my insurances were also the same offer.
That's not quite how insurance works.
Well,
You did that wrong, Jamie.
Or are you just hoping that they'd let you in anyway?
well, so it turned out that the places that I applied for PPE, none of them give an offer lower than AAA.
Really?
Yeah, it turns
Wow.
out that PPE it's always AAA, and there are only so many universities that are worth going to for PPE. I could have applied to Yale and done ethics, politics, and economics instead. That's their spin on PPE, but it's not as good, in my opinion, which is why I didn't apply for it.
Okay.
Someone is asked, which I think would be a fun question to answer, what has been our favourite university memory thus far?
You start, I've got a few to think through.
Oh gosh. Oh wait, I guess I'm not making any more, so I should be able to have a pool of them to draw on. My favourite university memory.
I've lots. I don't think I could pick a favourite one.
Yeah, I was
It's hard
thinking
to
that.
compare them all as well. I've got fun memories.
Borneo was quite fun for me.
Borneo?
Yeah, we went on a course trip to study the rainforest there. That was really good fun. Oh, actually, yes, because when I was in Borneo, they took us. So we're in the middle of primary rainforest that has never been cut down in pretty much the most diverse rainforest of all the different rainforests. And they decided that on pretty much the last day, we woke up, I think, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and they drove us out to this massive observation tower, and we climbed up the top of the tower and just watched sunrise over the rainforest, and it was incredible. So that's what you can do if you study biology. You get to go to amazing places like that.
My example was going to be CERN, when I got to visit CERN, but
That's
I
pretty
guess
cool.
that's not really a big up for PPE, because it's physics. But yeah, if you study PPE, you can still go on physics society trips and visit the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland as part of the physics society. They don't discriminate, although I was the only non-physicist on the trip, which was brilliant because they got to teach me all of the things about physics, and I was just there absorbing all the information while climbing up the cathedral that's in the center of Switzerland. Though I wouldn't say that's still my favorite memory. Graduating was very fun.
So I thought graduation was a bit of an anticlimax. Maybe it's because I knew that I was coming back.
Okay, was the anticlimax after kind of the reception time? You're like, oh, I thought there would be more.
Partly. Well, I mean, so my sister also went to Oxford, so I'd sat through her graduation. So I'd done all the sitting in the Sheldonian being spoken to in Latin. And so yeah, and then she was at Jesus. No, she was at UNIV for her undergraduate, and then they got a nice dinner because it's a smaller college, whereas I'm at St John's. I haven't actually said that. I'm at John's, best college ever, and it's and no joke, we don't have the reputation of John's at Cambridge, and we. So yes, ours is much larger. We have a massive marquee on the Great Lawn and just sandwiches and stuff. But yeah, because I suppose maybe I knew that I was coming back, and most of my friends were on 4-year undergraduate courses because they're physicists, mathematicians, chemists, engineers, whereas mine was 3 years. So none of my friends, not many of my friends were graduating with me.
See, I had a similar issue that I think the reason I really liked graduation was because of the pomp and ceremony of it. The fact that the process was the same process they've been using since the founding of the university, and that felt quite nice to be a part of. Although I still remember Oxmas, so our very first Oxmas. So in Oxford we do Christmas. Do you guys do it too? What do you guys call it?
Bridgemas.
Oh wait, what?
Bridgemas.
Oh god, that's brilliant. So yeah, so on the 25th of November we have Oxmas or Bridgemas.
Yeah.
And in the Wainfleet, which is where you stay in Magdalen, it's like a halls, so everyone stays together, all the first years. We had every single floor cooking Christmas dinner, and we divided up like you do Brussels sprouts, you do the turkey, you do the gravy, you do the puddings, and then we just had this fantastic meal across 5 floors with like 100 people. Just darting in and out and like exchanging gifts because there was a Secret Santa organised as well, and that was the first term of first year, and it was brilliant.
We never do much for Bridgemas, or I don't personally, so I don't have a similar story, unfortunately. But that sounds really cool.
It was really fun. But you must have. What's your favourite memory thus far then?
I don't know. I can't decide on something because I've just got
like. I guess we can go for highlights because that's kind of what I did.
So the May Ball in my first year was really great because it was Queen's 100th May Ball. But I think there are other things where I've had more fun. That was sort of like this big spectacular event. But I don't know, just I've enjoyed lots, like just other nights out I've had just as much fun. After exams is always fun, all the things I do there. Both years, when we've just finished our exams, we've punted to Grantchester, which is the next village along. That's always quite fun. I don't know. I can't think of any one single good memory. I'm rubbish at answering these questions. The thing to take away
is that we have so many great memories from our university experience that you should take that as a great sign that they are memorable and meaningful places to go to.
I will also add, just to be honest, I have some awful memories from university.
Yeah.
So I think it's because I do think this is one of the problems with you kind of alluded to this, Jake, when you are vlogging your life, you do tend to show only the things that you want to show, and you do tend to filter out the absolutely goddamn awful bits, the weeks where you are having a meltdown, or you're having an essay crisis, or you're having relationship problems, or tutor problems, or whatever. So yeah, university is stressful. So I suppose don't expect it to be like this. Don't expect it to be Hogwarts as much as it is Hogwarts.
Actually, maybe you could expect it to be Hogwarts because they got attacked by Death Eaters. There were tons of wars that happened. There were loads of relationship issues within this kind of magical promised land that was given to them when they got their owl letter when they were 11.
Yeah.
Maybe Hogwarts is probably the perfect analogy.
If somebody asks like what our worst memories are, and I don't know what specifically that would be, but I think I've probably got more or had more bad experiences than good. I mean that sounds awful, but like just a typical day would be like doing work for hours and hours and hours, and I would say that's more on the bad side than the good side of how much I enjoy my life at the time. So
yeah, a lot of people say like, how do you stay motivated to do the work, and were you like, someone asked, were you always, they were saying that they weren't always on top of things at 100% in class, but they were when they're doing their homework? Are we always the sorts of people that are on top of things? And I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, there's a thing about different fields saying there's talent and then there's hard work as a different spectrum. The article itself was about how that affects women going into those areas. But I do think that Oxford does tend to have this kind of only talented people get into Oxford, or you have to be crazy hard. But like, we're normal people. Like, I procrastinate like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Seriously, I am. There is genuinely a reason why I haven't made How to Revise Effectively, because I haven't worked out how to revise effectively or work effectively. I could have done so much better at Oxford. Or as in, I could have...
like that, but it doesn't mean I do it very well. Like today, for example, I've done no work yet. I slept in loads, and then I just procrastinated all day until now, basically.
But it is a Saturday, it's a weekend, you're allowed to. I think one of the problems with Oxbridge, and I would genuinely say this if you are thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge, is that it is a lot of stress. And people have been asking in the live stream, how can I cope with the intense workload when I start? And there are people that drop out because of mental health problems, and there are people that get into either Oxford or Cambridge and realise it's a lot more work than they're expecting, and actually it's not the style of teaching that they like. So don't go for it just because of the name, don't go for it just because of the colleges or the commemoration balls or that your favourite celebrity went there or whatever. It is a lot of work, and it can make your life horrible if it's not the right place for you.
Yeah, I found it really difficult in first year. I just messed up my tabs here and lost something.
It's okay. Press Command-Shift-T.
Okay, there we go. I fixed it.
Yes!
What's that? Reopen closed tab?
Yeah.
So in my first year, I really struggled with the stress, and I just basically didn't deal with it very well at all. I dealt with it by having like lots of chats with my director of studies, who would try to calm me down and tell me that things are going to be okay.
That's a good thing to do.
And then like crying myself to sleep. Like I had a really terrible first few months when I started here, because it is a very stressful place. After 2 years, I've sort of learned to just not care about the stress anymore. This is how I can just sit and do not much work in a whole day and be like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But
it does turn you into two types of people: the ones that just function in high stress, or the ones that just don't get stressed, or the ones that get super stressed but learn to deal with it. There's no avoiding the stress.
I started off being ridiculously stressed, not being able to deal with it, and I've learned to. It's taken a long time, but now I can deal with it. I still feel stressed sometimes when I have loads of deadlines coming up and not enough time to do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
But I never get myself into such a bad state that I did in first year. So although it was awful, it has taught me how to deal with stress quite well.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think we get an unnecessary amount of pressure at Cambridge. I'm willing to say that. Like, the stress can be helpful, it can be good, it can make people work, but I think we get too much sometimes.
But do you find that the stress is being put on you by Cambridge, or just that you're in an environment where you put the stress on yourself?
A bit of both, because if I just like objectively take the amount of work I'm expected to do by my DOS and by my supervisors, sometimes it is just too much. Like literally too much to be able to get done in the time frame that I'm given. And then at the same time, we are in this environment where everybody's working really hard. Everybody works harder than an average person. Everybody wants to do really well. It's very competitive. And like me myself, I want to do well, so I put more pressure on myself. So it is a bit of both. I think there's a bit of pressure being put on Cambridge right now, particularly by our student union, because of how much pressure we get and how we have quite a lot of people here suffer from mental health problems which are associated with the pressure that is put on us. So it's not this perfect place where everyone just like learns and has a great time listening to leading researchers talk and then goes punting every afternoon. It's not. It's an intense place.
I don't have that much to add aside from I was one of those people that I really, really like stressful environments. I'm one of those weird people. I like having loads and loads of deadlines. I like having a huge amount of work to do. Like, my Saturday consisted of me getting up at 8 a.m. to go into central London to go do parkour, and then go meet up with one of my friends to talk about a scholarship application, and then designing some stuff for a website I want to launch. I just like, that's what motivates me, and that's how I like doing stuff. So I'm probably a bad person to talk to about the other side of the coin. Having said that, it took me, in first year, it was like being thrown into the deep end of the swimming pool when no one's taught you how to paddle. That's
Yeah.
what first term of first year felt like. And it was only after the vacation when I could think to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to need to regroup and reassess how I've been approaching everything I've been doing for learning. Because A-levels and your undergrad are so different in terms of the intensity and the way you have to approach absorbing the content and mastering it to some extent. And then each term I would get slightly better at it and try and take on more work or more extracurriculars, just to see if I could, in a kind of sadistic way.
I'm the opposite to this. So you can have both views on this from us.
Yeah, I think we've got a good balance there. And so Lurking Simon is
I
trending.
was just about to say.
So maybe we should answer more
Simon.
questions, because Simon is thrashing us at the moment.
So there was one that came up just very recently from Hector Sinzinkeo, asking me why I chose to follow a PhD, but there was also, just to kind of open it up a bit more, Hibs Murad said, how did you guys decide on what degree you wanted to pursue? As in, was it an epiphany, or did it require some long thought? Did you have any doubts? So why did I do a PhD? Why did I do my undergrad in biology? That was because I have always liked biology since I was about, 4. I've liked animals, and it's kind of always been the thing that I wanted to do. And since about the age of 5, I've wanted to make natural history documentaries or science documentaries. And so I thought at the end of my degree, I'm like, I can do this degree thing fine, aside from all the mental health problems that we've been talking about. But no, the degree itself was fun, and so I thought, well, rather than going straight into TV, I might as well push academia as far as I can. Plus, to get a job in TV, I'm not going to lie, it helps to be a doctor. And academia might be fun. So yeah, I'm currently toying between half a career in academia and half a career in TV. And so I'm like, well, if I leave academia for TV, I'm unlikely to return to it. So I might as well do it now, see how things goes. Plus, it means that, because TV and science communication in general is quite difficult to break into, I currently have a full-time job which has very flexible working hours, over which I have an awful lot of control and independence. It's kind of perfect if you want to do freelance stuff on the side. So that's why I did a PhD. But I mean, I do enjoy the subject as well. I just, long term, unlike Simon, who I think wants to be a professor, I don't think I want to be a full-time academic.
I think he also does have just to speak on behalf of Simon, he also does have aspirations to get into some sort of hosting role as a credible researcher and academic in his field. Yeah.
So yeah, why did you guys do your degrees?
So why did I do computer science? So from a very young age, whenever I first got a computer, I enjoyed the more like technical side of it. Like, oh, this is cool. How can I like do this myself? How can I write my own programs? And I started learning various languages when I was like 13, somewhere around then.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I had to choose a degree, computer science just seemed like the natural choice. It was the subject I enjoyed most. Not that I could have done it in school. I never did like proper computer science at school, but just that sort of area of academia was what I was way more interested than. The alternatives would have been like maths or physics. Somebody asked ages ago what would I have done if I didn't do computer science. Probably one of those two, but computer science was really what I enjoyed, and this was just like something that slowly developed throughout my life. So by the time it came to applying to university, I already knew it was like obviously computer science.
Cool. I'm convinced I'd let you in. So I did PPE because I was passionate about my subject, is what basically everyone says in their
Do
personal
not say
statement.
you're passionate, show
At
you're
some point.
passionate.
Exactly. Oh, that's what I want say in my personal statement video. I'm glad you agree. So I did PPE because I like understanding how systems work, basically, and how society operates. So if you study philosophy, it teaches you how to think. If you study politics, it teaches you all about the systems you have to navigate to actually get stuff done within a country, while also appreciating all of the various cultural nuances you have. Like in Japan, for instance, I discovered that on Christmas Day they eat KFC. Every single Christmas Day you book into KFC, and that has really interesting implications over the economics of Japan. Also, if you say go into South Asia or another area where I studied, you appreciate all the different caste system that's there and the hierarchy that's there. And it gives you an awareness of the world that lets you identify problems that are worth solving. And so I've kind of taken the opposite approach to Jake. Jake likes making stuff, I guess, and understanding the technical side of things, whereas I like trying to figure out what is worth making and what problems are worth solving. So that's why I study PPE, and now I've actually turned my life on its head, and I'm going into software development to be able to make things that solve the problems I studied in lots of depth during my undergrad. And I've been given this device. Oh wait, I can't actually unplug it because it's all plugged in. But yeah, I'm slowly getting into software development, and I've got a job offer I need to confirm by performing a coding challenge. So that's how I use PPE to pursue my passions. I actually had no idea what it was. I didn't realize PPE existed until 4 months before I applied for it. Originally, I was going to be applying for history or English.
Oh, there's a question on that one. Serendipity with a T said, do you have any tips for people who still aren't sure what they want to do? Can you apply for 2 subjects and then choose the one you're accepted in? You can't apply for 2 subjects at the same university, certainly not Oxford or Cambridge. You can switch though, if as a kind of last resort. Don't bank on doing that. But if you're not sure what to do, I don't know. Maybe what did you think? Because if you, Jamie, weren't sure what subject you wanted to do, how did you pick?
So I think I just tried to have a plan. So initially I was like, okay, what subject can I realistically see myself studying a bit more? And it was initially English literature. And then I started thinking about why is it I like English literature. So it was the fact that it gave me an insight into different people's worlds when you're reading a piece of text. You get to see what it's like to be a slave, or see what it's like to be a feminist revolutionary during the suffragette movement, to kind of allude to Testament of Youth, which has now been made into a motion picture.
Ooh.
I know, right? I saw some adverts for it. It looks pretty good. So then I was like, okay, no, history makes more sense, but then I really liked the fact that I hated the fact that I'd be missing out on the mathematical element, so I really liked sciences. And so I was like, okay, history economics makes sense. And then one of my teachers just said to me, have you looked at PPE? And the way I kept informing on my decisions was I'd try and dive slightly deeper into each of the subjects to figure out what qualities there were about it that I found really engaging, and then try and distill that down and try and find a course that matched that better. As we were saying earlier, like this, specifically for Oxford and Cambridge, they're very, very intense. But regardless of what university you go to, you're going to be studying this for 3-4 years. So you should definitely make sure you're really interested in the subject that you're going to be committing loads of time to.
I know people who really weren't.
Oh, really?
Just putting that out there.
Did it go well for them? Because generally I find that it didn't for the people I know. They ended up changing courses later on, which is perfectly fine, actually. We should probably mention that later.
Yeah, someone asked, can you change course?
Yes.
Sometimes.
They won't always allow it.
So my college father, he did PPE, and then in his next year he did biochemistry. He decided to switch.
There are quite a lot of cases of people switching subjects. However, there are also a fair number of cases where the college and the university refuses to allow people to change subjects, particularly if you don't get a first in your first year. So first being the top ranking, like an A star in effect, or an A. And so do not apply to university with one subject thinking that it's easier to get in and then expecting to change, because that could go disastrously wrong for you. Just don't do that.
I've only heard of people changing to similar subjects.
Yeah, that's what I've mostly
After
heard.
doing well in the first year.
So, for example, like going from maths and comp-ski to just maths, or biochem to human sciences. If you're a scientist and you're not sure which of the sciences, like how much maths you want to do, how much, that is one of the advantages of Cambridge and their NatSci natural sciences course. So I chose Oxford over Cambridge because I knew that I wanted to do biology, and yes, whilst I'd be giving up a lot of the maths that I enjoyed, I could the courses and just the specialities that Oxford has in animal behaviour is better than animal behaviour at Cambridge. But if you just like science and like I like bits of biology and physics and chemistry or whatever, then yeah, NatSci natural sciences is definitely worth looking at.
There's a question that we've never touched on in any of our videos, so it might just be worth quickly addressing now. What is the LGBTQ presence like in Oxford and Cambridge, respectively?
Okay, so in Cambridge, I don't know what's a good way to answer this question, because I don't know I have nothing to compare it to.
That's true.
I don't know what Cambridge is like or any other scene.
I can tell you what the sort of gay clubbing scene is like in Cambridge, because there are no gay bars or clubs. There's just one gay night, which is a bit rubbish. But there are lots of other events that happen, which sort of probably make up for it. So if you're part of the LGBT community and you want to go clubbing, don't get your hopes up for Cambridge, but that goes for any person really, because just
or any type of clubbing. I was going to say.
But there's plenty of other things to get involved with, as far as I'm aware. I'm not really sure what else to say about it. Do you two have anything to add for Oxford?
I'm actually not too sure about the clubbing scene. I know far more about the society scene and kind of the support and awareness of issues, and the fact that Oxford is a very, very liberal city, in that, regardless of how you identify, both sexually and as your gender, no one minds. Everyone accepts you for that.
Yeah, that's the same here.
To the most extent. Sally can now be the rebuttal.
I feel like I'm the person that's constantly putting down Oxford and Cambridge. So again, Oxford, I am not the sort of person that goes clubbing. I don't think I've been to a club since my undergraduate freshers week 5 years ago. But I prefer being able to hear the people that I'm talking to.
I completely agree with Sally, by the way, so now Jake's in the minority.
There is, in Oxford, there is Plush, which is a gay bar, which is very cheap, and so an awful lot of non-LGBTQ people go to that as well. There are also 2 gay pubs that I think it's changed recently. Plush has moved from one club to another, so it's changed hands. The society itself holds drinks every week, and then there are just wide LGBTQ ones, and then there are more specific ones, like there are female ones, there are bi-pan ones, there are asexuality ones, there are transgender ones, there are graduate ones. These aren't all necessarily particularly well attended, and as a whole, if you're not white and male and gay, I would say that you will, you will notice that you are a minority even within LGBTQ societies. And just so the reason I was wincing at what Jamie was saying is that, like any city, there is still homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, whatever you want, and there have been in the past 2 or 3 years or so that I've noticed there have been attacks on people in Oxford, but that's not to say that it's any worse than in any other city, and the police are very helpful. So I will say, so college will help you, the university will help you, the police will help you, but it is still a city in the UK, and so there are still a few problems. But within university life itself, it makes no difference.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that there'd been attacks.
Yeah.
Though, I don't know, just my general feeling was that people can talk more openly, or rather exist more openly, regardless of their sexuality, in Oxford in comparison to other places in the UK, just in virtue of it being a student hub.
Cambridge. Within the university, among
perfect.
the students, I think students of Cambridge are very open and accepting of everything. I can't really speak for people who just live in and around Cambridge who aren't associated with the university, because like Sally's saying, it's still just a city in the UK. But within the university, everybody is really great about it and really accepting and supportive. And I haven't seen any problems that in this area from other Cambridge students.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at a comment that Simon made.
Okay. Are you laughing at the pants comment?
No.
Oh.
It's Jake Gay. Yeah, he's really happy at the moment. Yeah, and I just as a kind of final remark on that, I will say that Oxford has a particular focus on trans issues at the moment. So ALSU, Oxford University Student Unions, that's kind of the student representative body, as well as LGBTQ society, is having a huge emphasis on making sure that there are non-sex toilets, so unisex toilets,
Yes.
that aren't just male or female, and so they've changed it so that now the uniform that you have to wear for exams and things like that, it doesn't say men have to wear a trouser suit and women have to wear a skirt suit. It's you have the choice of either trousers or skirt and those kind of things. And Oxford is full of a load of old white middle class people at the upper echelons of it, and so there are problems. And I know that I've been involved in meetings involving our college, and they're like, well, does it really matter that there aren't any unisex toilets? And we're like, yes, this is an issue. And it's like, can you not just say that you can go in either the one label male or female? Does it, you have to get rid of the signs? Like, no, we do need to get rid of the signs. But there is a big emphasis on trans issues, so yeah, it's changing, which is good.
Yes. Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, guys, hit us with another question.
I've been getting some emails during this as well.
Oh yeah, people have been saying quite often, Jake, check your emails. Jake, why aren't you checking your emails? Jake, have you checked your emails yet?
Well, actually, this is funny. I don't have any new emails that aren't just from YouTube comments.
Okay, well, good. At least you know that now.
I've got some that are unrelated that I assumed these emails I've been getting were from people watching the stream, but no, they're not.
Someone.
I don't have any emails, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe you've managed to make it in my spam folder.
Shimbal11 asks, is there any intellectual snobbery at Oxbridge? Which I thought was a really interesting question. Go for it.
What exactly do they mean by intellectual snobbery?
They just say intellectual snobbery.
Can we
First rule of
also
debating, define the term.
Ah. Because one way of looking at it is, are people intellectually really competitive in a kind of zero-sum way? So they're competitive and they try to one-up one another in a way of putting everyone else down. And I would say that actually depends on your subject and who's actually learning your subject with you, and just what are they like as people. So some subjects I found they cooperated really, really well, particularly within the sciences. Scientists just seem to have a knack to group together and work together on their problems. I guess it's because it's far easier to work on a problem set together than it is to work on an essay together.
Yeah.
It might be the distinction between that and the humanities.
I will also say that, though, that I know chemistry, for example, is marked competitively, and I hear so is maths at Cambridge, where it is a rank, and the top 20 people get a first, and the next 40
Yes.
people get a 2-1. Whereas in my subject in biology, if you get above 70, you will get a first. And so in our year, we had a disproportionate number of people getting first because we just all happened to really work hard in our year. So in that sense, and you notice it in colleges as well, so the mathematicians in our college were all very cooperative with each other because they decided, okay, we'll all help each other out. Whereas in other colleges, because it is this, you are ranked against your fellow students, they are less cooperative. Whereas in my subject, everyone helps everyone out because it makes no difference if you help someone else out. It isn't zero sum, as you're saying.
I think the ranking, it does happen. We get ranked, we get told where we came in the year, and the top 20, it's the top 20 people out of like 80 something get a first. But I don't find this makes any difference for most of the year. It's only when we get towards exams everyone becomes a bit more competitive and then starts thinking about this. But yeah, you're right, that is a difference between these two types of subject. But mostly it doesn't matter, sometimes it does. But within a college, people are still willing to help each other out. Like, friendship takes priority over competing in this like ranking.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
you sort of find like people within a college will stick together and be against the other colleges. So that's one reason why I'd always recommend choosing a college where you won't be the only person doing your subject. It's nice to have somebody else there, at least one other person who's sort of going to be on your side. Anyway, I'm sort of getting off topic there.
No, I'd say that's a good thing to. I actually think, as a study habit, if you want to establish something in first year, it's get used to studying together and sharing notes with one another.
Someone asked about this.
Because you, as a group, you will achieve far more than as an individual, just because you only have a certain amount of time, and two people are going to have far more time than you on your own. So if you view it just from that perspective, they're going to get far more done. Like during our finals for PPE, we all shared our notes, like everything we ever had and every single topic that we had. We just shared it. We didn't mind if someone was going to take it and then maybe get a first and we didn't. We were just like, this makes it better, easier for everyone. And it's a really good habit to get into. And I think it lends itself stronger to the sciences, as I said before.
So someone asked, do you tend to work together individually? I don't work in groups. I very much work on my own. And so it's a lot different now I'm a graduate because obviously I'm doing actual collaborations with people, as in I physically need help doing my experiments. But as an undergrad, I get distracted. I'm an introvert, so I get distracted by people and I find people tiring. So I found it much better for me to just revise on my own and then go and see my friends afterwards and agree not to talk about work at all. All my other friends worked together, but so I would say it's up to you.
I think there's slightly more, for me, there was more to it than just that. So when I was revising for my finals, we'd always go to the library and we'd sit on a table, but we'd not talk to each other, we'd just do our work. So there we were working independently, but there was a great sense of camaraderie from having the other three people sitting around you and knowing that they're working hard and you're not the only one who's suffering at the moment, and having to forego fun.
My friends were suffering. We all knew that we were all suffering.
And so then after that, we would then maybe chat and maybe have like a mini discussion or a debate about a few arguments and test out what we'd learned that day independently, because that was a really great way of reinforcing what it was we'd just learned and challenging it to see if what we were arguing actually was valid or sound or actually was reasonable. So that's how I was. So it's kind of like this, depending on what you need to do to learn a specific thing, I moved between working on my own to working in a group.
I've done it the other way around. In first year, I worked with other people a lot more, basically because I think we were all struggling with the work, and it was just more helpful to work together and share our knowledge to get through the work and get it done. But I'm not sure exactly why we've stopped doing that as much. We still do sometimes, but we've learned to work more effectively and efficiently by ourselves, so we don't need somebody else there to help us with everything now. So it's just not by choice, it's just happened that now we're able just to learn by ourselves, so tend not to work in groups as much. having said that, I do enjoy working with other people because I do find I learn more and I get through more work. Maybe other people thought I was just pulling them down by not understanding anything when they'd been in the lecture and I hadn't.
Ellie Lewis quickly asks, is this ranking system for every subject? As far as I'm aware, every subject is ranked. I had to ask my tutor at the end of my year to find out what my rank, at the end of my 3 years to find out what my rank was. Some colleges, they will just tell you straight away, others you can ask. And in some subjects, your rank will actually matter for your degree, whether you come out with a first, a 2-1, a 2-2, or a third. And in others, it doesn't matter. So there is always a ranking system, but it varies in how important it is.
Say, I know this specifically for maths at Oxford, depending on whether or not you get offers for postgraduate placements, they do really care about your rank. So for some postgraduate placements, they're like, you must be in the top 10 in your year to secure your offer. Or sometimes they say they're more lenient, they're like, you just have to get a first. It depends how much they want you or how competitive it is, the course you're applying for your postgraduate. But that's to give you a bit more of an insight into how the ranking system is used. PPE, it's not used, and I think, well, you are still ranked, but it's not used to determine whether or not you're given an offer for a postgraduate. What happens there is they normally say you just need an upper 2-1, which means you need to get around a 65 or above, so between 65 and 70. Above 70 is a first, between 60 and 69 is a 2-1, below that is 2-2, and then it goes to a third in the next bracket. They say upper 2-1 because in essay-based subjects, there's a lot of room for interpretation. So your mark can vary far more than in a science subject where you're either right or wrong. So because
well, I would say that your mark doesn't vary as much, actually. So in something like physics and maths, you can get 20% in an exam, and you can get 90% in an exam. In an essay-based subject, if you get 20 out, this is out of 100, in an exam, this means that you have failed to make a single valid point.
Yes.
And so the vast majority of people get between 50 and, I would say, vast majority of people get between 55 and 75, and it's quite difficult to get outside that range, whereas if you're in a more, I suppose, mathematical subject, then you do have that wider spread of marks. But am I right in thinking that at Cambridge you have the like first star, like with distinction, which is if you get in the top 5 in the year, because that's not something that happens in Oxford?
I don't think so. Not for computer science anyway.
Okay.
And so I just want to point out that, like, you keep saying with science subjects it's either right or wrong. That's not always the case. Like,
okay, so computer science has an air of artistry to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I'm a science and I'm an essay subject.
Like with computer science, it's not just right or wrong answers. We have to write some essays in our exams, which obviously are open to lots of interpretation. Now, most of the questions, it's like, here's a question, think about a possible solution and argue why you think why your answer would be right, or something along those lines, rather than just sort of A, B, or C, which is the correct answer. So I think every subject probably has some scope for interpretation, but in general, yeah, I guess essays, science subjects are more on the right-wrong end of the scale. But we have to write some essays, not many.
Someone asked me, what was your college wife's work like as a medic at Oxford? I don't know if anyone else knows any other medics, but her work is quite intense being a medic. You have lots of labs to attend, lots of science material to learn. Basically, in the first 2 years, it's very much a science degree. I can't remember the exact, I think it's biomedical science. It's incredibly similar to that, and it's only upon getting into 4th and your later years in your postgraduate of medicine that you start doing clinical medicine, where you're actually in the hospital working with patients and under doctors and performing the work that you traditionally think is associated with a doctor. It is an intense degree, and that's kind of a crash course as to what my wife would do. She was generally quite busy quite often, but one of my wife's best friends, she still managed to fit in being a Blues rugby player and playing in the varsity matches against Cambridge and fitting in all that training. And quite a few of the medics are very into their sport, so it's still possible to balance the work with the play side of things.
The medics, with the possible exception of the lawyers, work the hardest of any subject at university. You will not see them until it comes to a bop or some kind of party thing, and then they have a reputation for getting utterly trashed and utterly off their faces, and they do often work hard and play even harder. Like, they are often super dedicated people, and I will say that the medic course at Oxford is very different to the other courses, other medics courses at different universities, so make sure you know the structure of the course.
So I was told in my first year that chemistry is the most intense degree. I mean, we can debate this later, but just to throw that out there.
Possibly in terms of contact hours, but in terms of actual work, just anecdotally, I would say that the medics have it hardest.
I was told this by a chemist, so it was probably biased.
Somebody asked if we often pull all-nighters. I've never done that while I've been at Cambridge. I've never had to stay up all night. No, I always do.
Every week. No, I only once did an all-nighter, but I work best / procrastinate until the very last moment. And so I work best at night, and so I would normally write an essay between 10 p.m. and 2 or 3 a.m. and then and it would be due in the next day, and I would potentially have the tutorial the next day as well, so I'd be knackered. To the point where I sent off, it was a particularly long essay, I was really getting into it, so I spent a bit more time on it. I sent my email to my tutor at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he replied saying, so I noticed, in the tutorial, I noticed the timestamp on this. Do you normally write your essays at night? I'm like, yes. Oh, well, can't really argue with that then, but this one was a little sloppier than normal. So yeah, I did.
So I had a few all-nighters when I was in Oxford, and it's quite... So I wanted it to be part of my university experience to pull an all-nighter at least once, for some reason. Because I wanted to see what it was like to be so dedicated to your work that you had to work through the night.
Masochist.
And after the first time I did it, and I got to see the sunrise through the windows of the library and no one else was there, and I had like my little box of brownies. Don't tell the librarians that I had any brownies because I'll get in trouble. I was like, oh my god, this isn't worth it. So after that, I just had a rule that I would try never to pull an all-nighter ever again. I'd just try and get all my work done within sensible hours, because it really hit my mood. I felt really low as a result of ruining my sleep pattern and working
the next 2 or 3 days recovering from it.
Yeah,
and then you spend the next, how I did it, you spend the next 2 or 3 days recovering from it. So then you start all your work later on in the week and you get caught up in a vicious cycle. Welcome to my wonderful world of procrastination.
Well, I've avoided this. I just wouldn't be able to handle it. I would just get too tired if I stayed up all night to be able to do anything efficiently. I've stayed up late and then gone to bed and had a few hours sleep, and then got up at 5 a.m. once to start doing work. But I always get some sleep in there.
I cannot work in the mornings.
So I think this is a general point that seems to be becoming very popular in the media at the moment. This idea of sleeping really little and being really mega productive. And you have these stories of like Margaret Thatcher, who slept, I don't know, like 4 hours a night apparently. And like the mark of a successful person is that they don't sleep very often. I think that's rubbish.
That's not true.
It entirely depends on your genetics.
Okay, so we have a biologist in the room, so she can bring science to the table.
So
there
are chronotypes, which is when your sleep pattern naturally falls. So you have larks and night owls. So Jake, it sounds like you are a lark, which means that you get up in the morning. I am very much a night owl.
I really don't.
You're just not. Because, so also the really interesting thing is that it actually changes according to sex and age. So as you hit, it's around 20, it's around 18 for women, I think, and 20 for men, when you become at your most night owly. And men are more night owly than women.
Jade, you're at the ripe age.
So because like little kids always get up really early in the morning, and then you're a teenager and it gets really late, which is why there's currently an argument for pushing school times to not start at 9 but to start at 10, because biologically it's like constantly being jet lagged if you're starting school at 9 o'clock. And then
I can agree with that.
It then drops back down. So I think at 60 you are the same chronotype as when you were 6 or something like that.
That's interesting.
It is, but it is genetics, and there are different people who need different amounts of sleep. So me, I start noticing that I get a sleep deficit if I have less than 8 hours sleep.
I feel like I need about 8.5 hours these days, otherwise...
Yeah, preferably 8.5, 9, 10.
More than about 6, and just feel dreadful all of the time.
Although, so Sally, how does it work? So I did this sleep thing in first year where I would try and sleep 5 hours a night, but I would complement it with naps, like 20-minute naps. And after a week of adjustment, I felt fine.
So
we turned this into a science. Sorry, guys, but I really want to know the answer to this question.
So we reckon that napping also tops up a sleep deficit. So the problem with a sleep deficit, so this is when you're not getting as much, so say I need 8 hours. If I slept for 7 hours, I have a 1 hour sleep deficit, is that I would then need to sleep an extra 2 hours to replace that 1 hour. You need twice as much to replace it. But you can bank sleep as well. So if I was to sleep 9 hours the day before, then it would be fine. But napping does help, and there is some evidence to suggest, or it's only recently actually, that we've had a solid period of sleep. So I think in like the Victorian times or Edwardian times, they would have 2 blocks of sleep. And so it's slightly unusual to have a single block. So yeah, napping counts as well. If you can, I can't nap. I really wish I could. I cannot nap for toffee. So I just have to get all my sleep at night. But if you can nap, then naps do contribute to your hours.
I can nap, but I usually feel worse when I wake up.
Well, that's exactly what I get, yeah.
Even if I try to time how long I do it to be optimal or whatever, it just however long it is, I don't feel great when I wake up.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up feeling terrible, and I don't sort of properly feel awake until about lunchtime. I'm really not a morning person.
So this is a useful question. For international students, do you have to move your things between terms for domestic students, and do international students have to do that as well?
International students here get more storage than people who live in this country, so they can leave most of their stuff. Whereas if you live in the UK, or at least in England, I'm not sure what the rules are, I think they vary between college, you have to take all of your stuff home over holidays, because you don't get much storage here.
They vary between college, so that you have, so for us as an undergraduate, you have to have your room completely empty between terms during holidays, but there is storage in college, and it's first come, first serve for the storage.
So my storage this year are those cupboards that you can see up there behind me. I need to like completely clear my room, but I can fill those up with stuff.
Okay, so we have like storage rooms dotted around college, and there are trolleys in college where you'll put all your stuff into a trolley and then trolley it round to the storage room.
So there are some storage areas in college, like extra storage areas on top of things like this, but they're only for international students.
But it does mean if, like me, you live, or like last year I lived 4 flights of stairs, it's a spiral staircase, and there is no lift because it is building from the 60s. You do have to move all of your stuff every 8 weeks up and down those stairs.
Yeah.
You will get
I
fit.
find that since our terms are 8 weeks, so that we spend about the same amount of time at home as we do at university, I want to move most of my stuff back and forward anyway, because it's not like I'm just going home for a couple of weeks and I can deal without most of my stuff. So I do have to pack everything up and transport it right up the country.
It is an absolute pain
every
in the
2
arse.
months.
But as a graduate, I get to keep my stuff in my room all the time, and because I'm at St John's, which is the best college ever, any night that I am not in my room, if I hand my keys in, I get the money back on rent for that
Really?
night, even though my stuff is in my room. It's wonderful. Most colleges don't offer that. Most colleges don't actually offer graduate accommodation. There is a reason why I'm at John's for 7
There's another college that's great that does, called Magdalen.
Not for all years of the graduate course, it doesn't.
It doesn't, that's true.
Although now St John's has actually stopped saying that it will do that. It pretty much will give you accommodation for all years of your course, undergraduate or graduate, regardless of how long it is.
Mhm.
But it is no longer guaranteeing it because we had some problems last year.
Okay. How many more questions when do we want to end the live stream?
Well, we've been doing this for over an hour, so maybe we should wrap this up soon, so we don't go on forever.
Do we have 15 more minutes at 5:30 to call it a day?
Yeah, let's round up at 1:30.
Yes.
Okay. Guys, your final questions, we would love to hear them.
While they are writing them in, a quick one. Do you listen to music when you are studying, says Ellie Kingston. What kind of music do you listen to? I was just listening to Taylor Swift.
Which song?
So I have the whole 1989 album, but I particularly like Into the Woods. No, Out of the Woods, not Into the Woods, that's the film. Blank Space and Shake It Off. Although, this is like when I'm doing data entry, so at the moment, where is it? I have just pages and pages of numbers. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just all of that is what I currently have to enter into an Excel file at the moment. So when I'm doing that, I can just listen to whatever pop songs I want. When I'm trying to actually work and read, I will normally stick on something like a load of Beethoven sonatas or Chopin nocturnes or something where it's enough to block out background noise, but it's not something that I'm singing along to.
So it depends what type of work I'm doing as well for me. If I'm doing something that needs like loads of concentration and it's really hard to understand, I won't listen to music at all.
Okay.
If it's a bit easier and I just sort of need to read stuff and take it in and it's not super complicated, I like to listen to jazz. If it's and music that doesn't have words, because if it has singing in it, I tend to listen to the words and then I can't concentrate while I'm reading. If it's like late at night and I'm trying to write code, which generally doesn't take too much thought, it's just sort of lots of typing, need to keep myself awake, I'll listen to something that's much faster and more kind of songs you'd hear in a club, because generally writing code doesn't take too much concentration, it just needs something to keep me motivated. So yeah, it varies between how much I need to concentrate and.
Yeah, I'm just going to copy their answers. It basically depends on what work I'm doing and what it is, the degree to which I need to focus. If I'm doing, like, say, making a website and, like, designing some stuff, I'll have loads of music on, really loud, kind of general pop music to keep...
Jamie just died.
He's died. Oh no.
Okay, maybe he'll come back. We can answer another question. Hopefully that sums up our music listening habits.
I've also just spotted that there is fan art by Chris Rowell on Twitter, and I think this is the first time I've ever received fan art, so thank you very much, Chris Rowell on Twitter. What was there? There's another question. A lot of people are asking, preparing for an application, did you do work experience? What work experience can you do? They're doing GCSEs. What can they do to help their application? All that kind of stuff. So what did you do before you applied?
I did some work experience at a software development company that I found near where I lived. So that was, I don't know how much that helped my application. It's really hard to tell whether the things that I did actually helped me to get in, because I just don't know. But it was great anyway. It really helped me know whether I liked the subject or not in terms of the programming sort of industry side of it. I only did one piece of work experience. I didn't really do much else. What about you?
What did I do? Jesus, this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
I spent a week in Cambridge in the biochemistry labs, shadowing a lab technician. I spent a week in some veterinary labs, which was kind of looking for illegal imported animal food and checking when cows have stillbirths, checking that they don't have any horrible diseases, that kind of thing. Sifting through poo for worms, that kind of thing. So that was useful, and they brought it up in my interview. But if anything, it was useful because it told me that I'm not very good at labs and very biochemical, dexterous, monotonous-y stuff. But what did I do? Oh, I'd entered a competition run by the ZSL, Zoological Society of London, where it's like do an independent research project thing. So I love frogs, and I did a project on frogs and breathing, and so that was something that I put on my personal statement that they brought up in interview. And other than that, I think it was just kind of like your usual subjects. Oh, someone was asking also what GCSEs I did. I was only allowed to take 9 at my school. So
One more than me.
So I did. We had to take English Lit, English Lang, Maths, Science, Additional Science, and a modern language. I chose French, and then my 3 options were Latin, Music, and Geography. And then at AS, I took Biology, Chemistry, Maths, Geography, Further Maths, and at A level, I took Biology, Chemistry, Further Maths, and Maths. I dropped Geography.
So I can probably find my personal statement and find out what I claim to have done. By the way, to everybody who keeps emailing me and asking for a copy of my personal statement, I'm not going to do that because I don't think that's a fair thing to give some people, and I don't want people to copy it. So that's not going to happen for anyone, I'm afraid. But the things I mentioned in it, I started with some quite typical, stereotypical, I'm passionate about the subject, rubbish. I mentioned an algorithm that I was particularly interested in at the time.
Oh.
I talked about my interest in IRC, which is like online chat room protocol, and some programming I'd done related to that, and so I mentioned some video games that I'd made. Then I talked about some other projects I'd worked on, some programming projects that I worked on with other people, and mentioned the other skills that I got out of that, like teamwork kind of stuff. Then I talked about my work experience that I did, and I also went on to summer schools. I spent a week at Cambridge and a week at Oxford, like the year before I applied. Well, yeah, the year I was applying, the year before I'd start, I guess, if I've got the years right. And that was the Sutton Trust Summer School at Cambridge and the Unique Summer School at Oxford. I'm not too sure if they're still happening.
Yes,
Oh,
they
yeah.
are.
Oh, good, because they were really great, and I would recommend anyone who's eligible for them should apply because I had so much fun on both of them. Then this answers someone else's question earlier who asked, I can't remember who it was, if we're musical. I can play the piano and kind of play a couple of other instruments, but not too well. But I mentioned that I can play the piano in my personal statement. Often the advice is like only talk about things which are directly related to the subject. Piano's kind of
You have to use a keyboard sometimes with your fingers.
Because the thing is that other universities are interested in extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Oxford and Cambridge, they do not care about extracurricular activities. They purely care about your academics. The only reason that they care to any extent about extracurricular is it shows that you have time left over and are still able to get those grades. And that you're not working yourself to the bone doing it. So I did clarinet and piano. I was in all the orchestras and choirs at school, and actually they brought it up in my interview, and they're like, so when it pulls down to it, are you a biologist or a musician? I'm like, well, who are you? I'm a biologist, I'm a private biology, what do you expect? But yeah, they do not care about extracurricular, but don't stop that putting it on your personal statement because other universities will.
Yeah, just don't focus on it too much. So I only had 2 sentences on piano and then a couple of sentences on being head boy at school.
Head boy! Woo!
Yeah. Yeah, we discovered last time that the 3 of us had all been head boy, didn't we?
Oh, it's alright, so I was prefect, I wasn't head girl.
So this
going on
bit
the club.
about piano, I mentioned that I was interested in the relationship between maths and the structure of music, and one of my interviewers, I think, realised that this was just sort of a bit of rubbish that I'd put in, and I didn't really have a good way to back this up, so he asked me about this, and pulled me up on it, and was like, yeah, you don't really know what you're saying here, it just sounded good, didn't it? Kind of thing. So, yeah, be very careful about exaggerating, and don't lie in your personal statement.
And also, if you say something, make sure you actually know what you mean by what you say.
Yeah. Don't,
Because quite a lot of people say things that sound good, but...
That one sentence there was the bit in my personal statement where it just sounded good, but it didn't really mean anything, and they asked me about it. One of the few things that they pulled out.
For anyone who is not musical and now they think that they can't get into Oxford, I am not at all musical. I dabbled in the guitar, but that was during university.
Sound like you're dabbling in drugs.
Yes.
Yeah, most of my computer science friends aren't musical.
Yeah, so you don't need to be grade 8 in a particular instrument to be able to get into Oxford. But
Yeah.
it does show that you have very good time management skills and you can still dedicate yourself to other things on top of your academic commitments.
I've found lots of people are musical at Cambridge. You get a ton of people who are grade 8 in piano, but I think it's more because it's the relationship how is the other way around. It's not people get in because they can play the piano. It's just, I'm not sure why you get people who are academic often can play the piano. I guess just maybe the environment that they were brought up in. They were encouraged to take up an instrument. But the fact that they are musical doesn't give them an advantage to in their application, as far as I'm aware. I don't think any interviewer would choose somebody because they're grade 8 over somebody else who's only grade 4. That's just that doesn't happen. So yeah, like Jamie said, don't worry if you're not musical. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left.
I guess 2 more questions?
Yeah, what else have we got here?
I'm going to go for Orange Mandarin. Do you think you have come out of your degrees more or less passionate in your subject, or just learning things in particular and combining that with, where was it, someone saying that, Daria Doranina from Kazakhstan, hello, do you feel like you can actually do stuff in a job market now? Do you have proper knowledge?
That's a good question, actually. So, am I more or less passionate about computer science? I've certainly found many, many areas of computer science that I hate. And I feel... I'm not sure. I've certainly... I know a lot more about computer science, obviously. I know a lot more about what the subject is, which, when I applied, lots of the subject were very sort of mysterious because I couldn't obviously understand much of it. It's just like the subject about computers. It involves programming and it involves a lot of maths and some theory about computation. But that was about the extent of my knowledge. So now I totally understand what the subject is and realise that I'm not actually passionate about everything. Some areas I enjoy. I don't want to just say no, I'm less passionate, because that sounds horrendous.
You've refined your passion. That sounds legitimate to me as an answer.
Yeah, I've found I'm not so interested in most of the theoretical part of the course. I prefer the practical side where I'm programming. I've also found, actually I already knew I hated hardware stuff. I've confirmed that. And do I know stuff that is going to help me? Yes, but I still think most of, again, the theoretical stuff that I've learned is not going to be overly useful. And a lot of the stuff I've learned, I would have just been able to Google in real life, and not bother, and I wouldn't have had to understand all the underlying principles and theories to achieve whatever I wanted to do. It's nice to know, but not necessarily useful for a software development job. But I wouldn't say my degree has been a waste of time, and I wouldn't say I certainly don't regret taking it.
What about you, Jamie? Because you're now in the real world.
Yeah, I loved my degree, and I still love my degree. Although I did discover areas I didn't like. So, for instance, I much preferred doing politics papers that were focused on a region, so regional papers. So, specifically going in loads of depth into China, or Japan, or South Asia. I liked less the kind of superficial, loads of theoretical sides of the course. but I did gain a deeper appreciation for philosophy as a discipline and why it's worth studying, because it's basically like doing weight training for your mind. You become far sharper and you can articulate your arguments far better through studying philosophy because you're dealing with such abstract concepts. And I think that that's also true for, say, if you're studying maths or looking into computer science or just going into very deep thought. And so I can see the value there, but is it applicable to the real world? I would say that when I'm like thinking through business stuff, having this cultural awareness from having studied my politics papers, that's incredibly helpful. It means you can have a conversation, you can connect with people quite easily because you have an understanding of the different ways in which people live their lives. In terms of giving you, PP also gives you a great analytical tool, which I actually think most academic pursuits do as well. So this might be generally applied from going into and studying in depth a degree of any sort, but being able to distill from all the white noise what's actually valuable, I found to be really applicable, whether I was working at Google or whether so in like a corporate environment or working at startups, whether it be in financial technology, educational technology, or advertising. So I found it pretty useful thus far.
I would say that I am still passionate about biology, albeit a little disillusioned with academia, but the actual subject itself I still find absolutely fascinating, and particularly, I mean, it's given me a focus of evolution, which is something that really is not covered at GCSE and A-level. GCSE and A-level biology are pretty much all human anatomy and physiology. This is the kidney, this is the lung, this is the eye, when there's a whole area of evolution and animal behaviour, which I have broken into at university, so that's been great. In terms of being useful for a career, I could not write decent essays before I started. And when you have to produce one essay a week and have it scrutinised by an expert in that field, then you get really good at writing, and now I am much, much better at writing, which is super helpful when I'm writing papers or blogs or whatever. And again, most of my tutorials were in a maximum of 2 students with 1 tutor, or a lot of them were one-on-one. So I am very good at arguing. I am very good at arguing with people who are more important and more knowledgeable than me, whether that be bullshitting or actually making an argument, and I am confident to do that. I have survived what is probably going to be one of the most stressful periods of my life. I can know that I can work in high stress situations, and I also know where my limits are with those stressful situations. And because, as I mentioned right at the beginning, I do want a degree in a career in science communication. Obviously, my degree is going to be useful for that. So I would say that yes, it has been pretty good.
I'd like to second. So in the field of like the business area that I've been in as well, I have yet to come across a workload as high as what I was doing at Oxford. And the cool thing is about the working world is you get paid to do all of it as well.
I get paid. Become a graduate. So I get paid pretty much minimum wage, though.
I was speaking to my manager at Google, and she was like, "Is the workload okay? Are we not pushing?" And I was like, "No, this is about half of what I do normally." And she was like, "Wait, what? Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I also second your comment on being able to write essays and communicate really, really quickly, both in intimate situations like one-on-one and in interviews, and also being able to write posts very, very fast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think there's some great points, and hopefully once I've graduated and I'm in the working world, I'll agree with you both on...
Become a graduate, become an eternal student and never ever leave.
That sounds awful, to be honest.
I gotta say, I didn't want to do that because I became disillusioned with academia.
I need a break at least. I wanna get away from university education, academia, and work for a while, and then reevaluate what I want to do after.
We can travel the world together.
Aww.
I want to travel the world for a bit. I also want to go to a monastery and learn martial arts with the monks. So if you're game, I'm game.
I'll let you know if this is something that I add to my list of things to do.
Okay, cool. Add it to your bucket list. Sally, are you in?
Yeah, why not? Sorry, I was reading the questions rather than actually paying attention to what you were saying. So,
Okay, cool.
I have no idea what I'm letting myself in for.
Do we want to answer one more, or should we call it a wrap?
Well, we said 1/2 and we're now
Yeah,
at
we're
25.
minutes.
I'd say call it a wrap.
Yes.
Okay. Simon? Oh no, not Simon. Sorry, Jake. Do you want to do the outro?
I can try. So, yes. Thank you, you two, Jamie and Sally, and also thank you to Simon, who, despite his awful internet and he hasn't been able to join us live, he's probably been doing more work than us answering
Everyone has been saying he's been doing more work than us.
It's not stopped for the last hour and a half answering people's questions in the comments, so we appreciate that, Simon. Thank you.
Lurking Simon lives on.
Yes. And thank you for everyone who's been watching. 222 people we're ending with. That's quite impressive. Sorry to everyone whose questions we didn't answer, but thank you for asking them anyway, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this live stream. And hopefully we'll do it again. So, bye for now. Thanks for watching.
Bye!
See ya.